All right, Dalton, let's get into the first game of our 10 games here in Week 4. Massive Big 12 game at noon. Number 17, Texas Tech at number 16, Utah. 12 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox. It was a 10 a.m. kickoff in Utah.
Which is a wild decision. I know TV rights are what they are, but man, for a game,
big noon, baby.
For a game in Utah to be played at noon Eastern, crazy stuff.
That's
honestly.
Crazy. It is crazy. But the two Big 12 favorites are squaring off right now because if you look at DraftKings Sportsbook, our partner here at PFF, the Red Raiders are plus 350 to win the conference right now. They're the favorite to win the Big 12. Next up, Utah, plus 380 to win the Big 12 conference. The next closest team in the Big 12 is TCU at plus 650. So these are clearly right now the two favorites to win the Big 12 according to DraftKings Sportsbook. We also, here at the PFF College Football Show, agree with those odds as well because, Dalton, you had Utah beating Arizona State in your Big 12 title game. I had Texas Tech beating Utah. So my preseason Big 12 pick, your preseason Big 12 pick facing off in maybe what is the biggest game of the Big 12 regular season.
And the fact that we get it for both of their first Big 12 games is just fantastic stuff, honestly. It could be the game of the year in the Big 12 that we're getting right off rip. Utah, I think they're back after obviously they struggled last season. Love their offense with Jason Beck calling the plays and Devin Dampier at quarterback. And then Texas Tech. We all know the boatload of talent they brought in the transfer portal. They're an extremely talented team, but now you have to go out there and execute. The cupcakes are done. You're in your conference schedule, and you couldn't have a bigger first test than this one.
Absolutely. So we actually switched. Your pick was Utah to win, but you have the Texas Tech offense. I have the Utah offense in this one. Tell me more about Behren Morton against this Utah defense.
I think in general more than anything about scheme, and Utah's got a very aggressive defense. I'll get to that in a moment, but I think this is just, it's go time for Behren Morton, right? Like we just mentioned, the cupcakes are over, and he's got an 86 passing grade this year, and he's been really good, but the three opponents have been Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Kent State, and Oregon State, and we've seen in the past that Behren Morton, he can play at a really high level with PFF passing grades up in the upper 80s or even 90, and he can play at a really low level under 50 with the passing grade and a lot of turnover-worthy plays. I think that's the big thing you see with Behren Morton, and I don't often go to this because I don't always believe that it's the end-all, be-all, but Behren Morton, he's got to go on the road against an aggressive defense, and I think possibly with as physical as Utah's defense is, possibly carry him to a win. In the run game, we'll see if it suffers now with Quentin Joyner suffering a season-ending injury, but Behren Morton's got to go out there and play big boy football now. Yeah. And the splits, I don't usually go home and road splits, but in his career, at home, he's got an 80 passing grade. In road games, it's a 59, okay? Another thing, Utah, very aggressive defense. They blitz a lot of man coverage. In his career, Behren Morton in a clean pocket is really, really good, 86.3 passing grade. Behren Morton under pressure, 35.5. It caves in. There's poor decision-making under pressure. He's a decent athlete, but not a great athlete. I think when you start to look at who the pressure is on, I should say, the most in this game, I think it's Behren Morton, and he's got to be safe with the football. He hasn't always been safe with the football in big spots, and he's got to be able to adjust when everything starts to speed up on him, right? And look, Utah, Kyle Whittingham's going to blitz him. They're going to challenge him. They are going to do what they do. And if Utah starts to shorten this game with their run game that you're going to get into a little bit, I think you have a moment where you might only have so many possessions, right? Because of this matchup that you're about to talk about. But if Utah does win that matchup and they control time of possession, possessions are going to be so valuable in this game. The big thing I'm looking for is Morton under pressure in a hostile road environment where it's very tough to win. Can he get it done and not make mistakes under pressure? And when he is clean, then take those shots downfield against that man coverage.
Absolutely. And my match to watch on the other side of the ball is Utah against Texas Tech. And that offensive line against Texas Tech's defensive line is one of the best matchups that we have all season. One of the best trench battles that we're going to see the entire year in college football. Utah entered this year with my number 2 offensive line in college football. Their 2 tackles, Spencer Fano and Caleb Lomu, 2 of the 15 best prospects in the 2026 NFL draft, according to our big board. They lived up to the hype so far. They're the second lowest pressure rate allowed in the country at below 8%, and 4 of Utah's 5 starters on that offensive line have 80-plus pass blocking grades this season. Texas Tech, meanwhile, enters the year with my number 3 defensive line in the country, thanks to a few transfers coming along in there. And right now, Texas Tech has the highest graded defensive line in college football with a 92.7 grade as a unit. They have the highest run defense grade as a team with a 96.1 grade, and they're third with a 90.1 pass rush grade. If you look at Texas Tech's defensive line and how they're grading out right now, Skylar Gill-Howard, the D tackle, highest graded D tackle in the country. Romello Height, the edge rusher, 4th highest graded edge rusher in the country. Jaden Cofield, another D tackle, 10th highest graded D tackle in the country. David Bailey, another edge rusher, 14th highest graded edge rusher in the country. Lee Hunter, D tackle, 16th highest graded D tackle in the country. Dalton, they have 4 players on their defensive line that are in the top 20 of grading for their position in the entire country. This Texas Tech D-line has been incredible so far, but they are going against their toughest test of the season and a Utah offensive line that has an argument to be the best in college football.
Yeah, and I think the run defense factor in it, and you've got Cofield and Gil Howard and Lee Hunter who have been great. And I want to throw out one other guy that's not a defensive lineman, but he's a spectacular run defender, and that's linebacker Jacob Rodriguez. 94.9 run defense grade. I believe that's tops in the country right now. That's going to be the key, is on early downs, can they get Devin Dampier and Wayshawn Parker in this run game? Can they make them uncomfortable? Can they make Dampier beat them in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9 situations? And then I think when it comes to Devin Dampier, against this defensive line, he's one of these guys, look, it's great to get pressure, but with as good an athlete as he is, you have to still contain him within the pocket, and you can't let him break outside the hash marks and all of a sudden start making plays with his legs. I think it's one of those games where, look, we believe that pressure, not that pressure necessarily matters more than sacks, but it's going to correlate to sacks. In this game against this quarterback, you have to turn a good amount of those pressures into sacks. If he escapes outside the pocket, that's when Dampier really starts to break the game open.
Absolutely. So Dalton, ultimately, in a matchup between our 2 picks to win the Big 12 this year, are you riding with your champion, or are you going with Texas Tech to win on the road?
Just what a fantastic football game, because you mentioned the elite offensive line, the highest graded D-line in the country, and we expected it to be an elite D-line with all those names you just mentioned, right? And even the great linebackers behind those guys. I'm really, this is as 50-50 as it gets, but I think the 2 big factors, 1, Utah's at home, and it's very, very hard to beat them at home, and 2, I need to see it from Baron Morton in a spot like this. I need to see it. I actually believe in Dampier in a spot like this. You know, he's won. I know it's, you know, he was at New Mexico last year, but he has showed up when it's mattered, right? For New Mexico last year, even though they had no defense and high-scoring games. Remember the big upset over Washington State? You know, this year, when you talk about, obviously, the UCLA game is one thing in his first start, but they're playing really good football, especially up front. I'm taking Utah 31-28. I think the defense does just enough, even though it's a really talented Texas Tech offensive unit. I think Dampier is going to make some plays outside the pocket, even outside of this defensive line, that are going to make a big difference in this game. His ability to make plays out on the move is just unbelievable. He's one of the best dual-threat quarterbacks in the country. I'm going to ride with my champion. I think there is a very real possibility we could see these teams again.
Yep.
I still have, even though he's played well through 3 games against not very good opponents, I still have my lingering questions about Baron Morton. I need to see it first before I pick him to win a game like this.
I'm going with my champion to win. I'm riding with my champion, Texas Tech 28, Utah 27. This game should go down on the wire. And I'm telling you right now, watch when Utah has the football, watch the trenches, man. That offensive line against Texas Tech's defensive line, that might be the best trench matchup we get in college football the entire season, honestly. It's going to be a war in the trenches. But I like Texas Tech's D-line a lot. And also, I think Utah struggled a little bit with Wyoming last week, right? Texas Tech has looked dominant through 3 weeks.
They didn't. Utah's got to finish drives. That was the big thing against UCLA a couple weeks ago. They finished drives. In that game in Wyoming, they didn't finish drives. They were kicking field goals. And I think to Texas Tech's advantage here is that if they can hold Utah to field goals, that's really going to be a big thing in this game is red zone offense and defense. Utah, they moved the ball well, but they didn't finish drives. They need to finish drives against this defense. And I will say, for Utah, they want to run the ball. They want to be front runners in this game. If this game gets late, last 10 minutes, and Utah are the team that's behind, well, you don't want to see that D-line in obvious passing situations when Utah, even with Dampier, and I love Devin Dampier, but they're not a drop-back football team. So they don't want to be in that situation. They're the team more than anything that wants to get ahead early on.
I also think that Texas Tech D-line with the team that wants to run the football, Texas Tech has easily the best run defense grade in the country right now. I know it's been 3 weeks against subpar competition, but I still think that run defense is going to be elite for Texas Tech this year. If they can slow down that Utah ground game and make Devin Dampier win in obvious passing situations, that's an avenue for Texas Tech to win the game too. It's going to be razor thin. I really didn't know who to pick here, but I'm going to ride with my preseason champion in Texas Tech by 1 point over Utah, and I still think this is the Big 12 title game we're going to get later on in December, too. I think this is not the last time we're going to see these two teams squaring off.
Entirely possible, but this is a tone setter to start 1-0 instead of 0-1 when this Big 12 is still relatively wide open, even with these two maybe near the top of it. It's a big game, maybe the biggest game of the year in the conference.
Absolutely. So Dalton riding with his preseason Big 12 pick. I'm riding with my preseason Big 12 pick in what should be an awesome Big 12 game, maybe the biggest Big 12 game of the entire season.